The notary's stamp was on page 6. My signature was on page 7. Except I'd never seen page 7 in my life. I held it up to the kitchen light. My handwriting, close but wrong. The W in Wendell's last name leaned the wrong way. Priya stood in the doorway with her hand on her belly. Wendell said, "Margot, let me explain." I said, "No, you let her explain." Priya opened her mouth and, after 25 years together, my husband and stepdaughter went behind my back in the worst possible way. Hi, everyone. My name's Margot Tennyson. I'm 56 years old. I've worked as a hospice nurse for most of my adult life, and until about 14 months ago, I thought I had the rare kind of blended family that actually worked. I was wrong about that. I was wrong about a lot of things. Let me tell you how it unfolded. I met Wendell when I was 31. I had a 6-year-old son named Silas from my first marriage. Silas's father had been out of the picture since he was 2, and I'd made peace with raising him alone. Then I met Wendell at a friend's barbecue. He was a widower with an 8-year-old daughter named Priya. His wife had died of ovarian cancer 2 years before. He was quiet, steady, the kind of man who remembered how you took your coffee after meeting you once. We married when I was 32, 25 years ago. Priya was a sweet kid, shy, anxious. She'd latched onto me within 6 months of us meeting, probably because she missed her mother and I was there. I didn't try to replace Devaki. I'd never do that. But I braided Priya's hair for school. I packed her lunches. I stayed up with her when she had night terrors. Silas and Priya grew up more like siblings than step-siblings. For a long time, that was the thing I was proudest of. Priya got married 5 years ago to a man named Renzo. He's decent, accountant, quiet like Wendell. At the wedding, Priya asked me to walk her down the aisle. Not her father, me. "You raised me," she said. "You raised me more than anyone." I cried. Wendell cried too, sitting in the front row, because he agreed with her. He'd told me that for years, that I'd given Priya the mother she'd lost. I walked her down that aisle, and I thought, okay, whatever I did right in this life, this was one of the big ones. I want to be careful here. I'm telling you what I thought then, not what I think now. You'll see why that matters. Silas is 31. He's a good kid, grown man, really. He's an architect, lives 2 hours away, comes home for holidays. He and Priya were close growing up, but they drifted in their 20s the way siblings do when one stays local and the other doesn't. He's a little guarded around Wendell, always has been. I used to tease him about it. "Your stepfather loves you, Si." "I know, Mom. It's just, he's different with her." "He's known her longer. She's his blood." "Yeah." I'd brush it off. Silas wasn't the resentful type, but he was observant. He'd been observant since he was 4 years old. I should have listened to him more. 2.5 years ago, my father passed away. He was 89, and it was peaceful. I was there. I'm a hospice nurse. That's the one thing I know how to do right. My dad came from a family that had owned farmland for 4 generations. He'd sold most of it in the 90s, invested carefully, and left the proceeds in a trust for me and my sister. My share, when it came through, was substantial. I won't give you a number, but it was enough that our financial advisor said, "Margot, this changes things. Let's sit down." I told Wendell. Of course I told Wendell. We'd been married 23 years at that point. He was my husband. We shared everything. "I want to be smart about this," I said. I want some of it to go to Silas, some to Priya, some for us, for retirement. That sounds right, he said. Let me talk to Murray. He can put something together. Murray was Wendell's best friend since college, an estate attorney. He'd done our wills years ago. I trusted him because Wendell trusted him. I know. You can already see it. Just let me tell it. Murray came over for dinner a few weeks later. He brought a folder. Margot, the cleanest way to do this is a family trust. You fund it, we name beneficiaries, we set distribution terms. You retain control during your lifetime. Okay. Wendell will be co-trustee for continuity. If something happens to you, it keeps functioning without probate. Makes sense. Priya and Silas as equal beneficiaries? Equal, yes, absolutely equal. I remember saying that clearly. I remember it because I said it twice. I was a stepmother who'd spent 23 years making sure Priya never felt like less. And I was a mother who'd spent 31 years making sure Silas never felt like more. Equal was the whole point. Murray nodded. I'll draft it. It'll be a few weeks. Wendell squeezed my hand under the table. You're doing right by everyone, babe. A month later, Murray brought paperwork. Thick stack, tabs and flags. I signed where the flags were. I didn't read every page. I want to say that out loud because it's the piece I have to own. I trusted my husband and his best friend, and I didn't read every page. That was my first mistake. There were others. Things changed slowly. So slowly, I didn't see them as a pattern. Priya called Wendell more. Only Wendell. She used to call me first for the little stuff. Recipe questions, baby name ideas when she was thinking about getting pregnant, advice on her marriage. Those calls thinned out. At first, I thought she was just busy. Renzo had been promoted. They were buying a bigger house. She was trying to conceive. Then, Wendell started taking calls in the garage. He'd never done that before. Who was that? Priya. Just catching up. Oh, how's she doing? Good. What'd she want? Just to talk. He wouldn't meet my eyes when he said it. Small thing. I let it go. Then, the bank statements. I do most of our household finances, I always have, but Wendell handles the trust accounts. That was the arrangement. Murray sent quarterly reports to Wendell's email. One day, I said, "Can you forward me the last report? I want to see where we are." It's complicated, babe. Let me walk you through it next weekend. Next weekend came and went. I asked again. Murray's traveling. I'll get it soon. Another month passed. Wendell, I want to see the report. Why are you being weird about this? I'm not being weird. I want to see a report on my own money. Our money. Our money. Fine, I want to see it. He sighed like I was the difficult one. I'll print something this weekend. What he printed was a one-page summary. Balance, growth percentage. Nothing detailed. No breakdown of disbursements or beneficiary structure. I asked about it. He said Murray could send more if I really needed it. I should have pushed harder. I didn't. I was tired from a string of hard cases at work. 3 patients died in 1 week, one of them a 12-year-old. And I let it slide. Looking back, that was when the door was already half closed. I just kept walking past it, telling myself the draft was from the windows. Corinne saved me. Corinne's been my best friend since nursing school. She went through a bad divorce 8 years ago. Her husband had been quietly moving marital assets for almost 2 years before she caught him. She'd told me the story 100 times, but it had always been her story, not mine. We were getting coffee on a Tuesday. I was venting about Wendell being secretive about the trust. She set her cup down. "Margot." "What?" "Listen to yourself." "What?" "You just described 8 months of my marriage." "Corinne, come on. Wendell's not—" "I'm not saying he is. I'm saying go look. Just look. If everything's fine, it's fine. If it's not, you need to know." "Look how?" "Did you sign anything?" "I signed the original trust, years ago." "Have you seen the actual document since?" I thought about it. "No." "Get a copy. Not from Wendell, from Murray. Or go to the county if it's filed. Just get eyes on it." I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. I went home and made dinner and told myself Corinne was projecting. Then Wendell took another call in the garage that night, and I stood at the kitchen window watching his back, and I thought, fine, just to be sure. I called Murray's office the next morning from the hospice parking lot. I said I needed a current copy of the trust for my records. His paralegal said she'd email it over. 20 minutes later, there it was. I read it in my car. I read it twice. I read it a third time because I couldn't believe what I was reading. The trust had been amended. Twice. Both amendments within the last 18 months. Amendment 1, 14 months ago. Priya moved from equal beneficiary to primary beneficiary. Silas's share reduced to roughly 15%. Amendment 2, 4 months ago. A new clause added giving Wendell sole discretion to distribute principal in accordance with family needs. Translated out of legalese, Wendell could hand the whole thing to Priya whenever he wanted. And at the back of the document, the signature pages. Page 6. My signature. Real, from the original signing. Page 7. My signature. Fake, close enough to pass a notary, who wasn't looking hard. Wrong enough that I knew it wasn't mine the second I saw it. The W in Tennyson leaned the wrong way. I've signed my married name 10,000 times. I know what it looks like. I sat in that parking lot for 40 minutes. I didn't cry. I'm not a crier. I just sat there. There's a particular flavor of betrayal that doesn't taste like anger at first. It tastes like cold, like every warm memory getting a shell of frost on it. That's what I felt. I drove home. Wendell was at the kitchen island making a sandwich. Priya's car was in the driveway. She'd stopped by to show him the ultrasound photos from her appointment. She was 22 weeks along. She stood in the doorway with one hand on her belly when I walked in. I set the printed trust documents on the counter. "Margot?" Wendell said. "You're home early." I took the afternoon. "Everything okay?" "No." I held up page 7. That's the moment you heard at the beginning. The signature was wrong. The notary stamp was real, which meant someone had lied to a notary. The amendment gutted Silas and handed everything to Priya. "Margot, let me explain." "No, you let her explain." Priya's face had already started to crumble. She looked at her father. Her father looked at the floor. "Priya." "Margot." "Priya, did you know?" Dad said you'd agreed to it." "Did you see me sign it?" "No, but did he tell you I knew?" She was crying now. The performative kind at first, then the real kind when she realized the performative kind wasn't working. He said you'd agreed. He said we didn't need to worry you with the paperwork because you were overwhelmed at work. He said you wanted me and the baby taken care of. He said Silas already had his father's family money. Silas's father has been dead for 20 years and left him nothing, Priya. She looked at Wendell. Dad? He didn't answer. Dad, you told me. Priya, just let me handle this. No, you told me Mom signed off. You told me she wanted this. Dad, I'm pregnant. You told me she wanted this. Wendell finally looked up. At me, not at his daughter. Margot, I was trying to protect the family. Whose family? Our family. Silas is my family. Silas is grown and gone, Margot. Priya is here. She's about to have a child. I was thinking long term. You forged my name, Wendell. I didn't forge anything. Murray handled the paperwork. Murray forged my name and you let him. Margot, it's not. You took my father's money. My father's money from land my grandfather cleared, and you moved it around behind my back so my son would get almost nothing. And you used my stepdaughter as the reason. The kitchen was so quiet you could hear the refrigerator hum. Priya sat down on the kitchen floor and sobbed into her hands. I wanted to go to her. I didn't. I couldn't. I've thought a lot about that moment, about what it meant that I couldn't cross the floor to her. She was the closest thing I had to a daughter for 25 years, and I couldn't move. Because I didn't know what she'd known, and I didn't know what she'd wanted, and I didn't know if any of the love I'd poured into her had been aimed at a real person or at a version of her that existed only in my head. I left that night, stayed at Corinne's, called Silas in the morning and told him everything. He said, Mom, come stay with me. As long as you want. I went the next day. I got my own lawyer, a woman named Louisa, referred by Corinne. Louisa took one look at the trust and the signatures and said, Margot, this is going to get cleaned up. The forgery is provable. The notary is going to lose their commission. Murray is going to have problems with the state bar. And the amendments are going to be voided. They were. All of it was. Took 9 months. Murray lost his license. He's selling insurance now, I heard. Wendell wasn't charged criminally. I didn't press. But every penny of the original trust was restored to its original structure, and I pulled it out from under his co-trusteeship entirely. Silas got his equal share. I moved my own money into my own accounts with my own attorney. Wendell and I divorced. Clean, as these things go. He didn't fight. I think part of him had been waiting for the moment the house of cards came down, and when it did, he almost seemed relieved. The hardest part was Priya. She called me 14 times in the first month. I didn't answer. She wrote me a letter. I read it once and put it in a drawer. She said she hadn't known about the forgery. She said she'd believed her father. She said she loved me and she was sorry and please, please let her explain.
Here's the thing I've had to sit with. I'll never know how much she knew. She might have known everything. She might have known nothing. She might have known the middle version, that something was off, that her father was being strange about it, and that she chose not to ask questions because the answers she was getting were the ones she wanted. I can't prove any of those. Neither can she. Neither can Wendell. I used to think truth was one thing, a fixed shape, like a rock. You dig it up, you hold it, you know. I don't think that anymore. Some truths don't come all at once. Some truths you only ever get pieces of, and you have to decide what to do with the pieces you have. I decided to stop trying. I wrote Priya back once. I told her I loved her. I told her I couldn't be around her right now, and I didn't know when I could, and that I wasn't going to promise her I ever would. I told her the baby wasn't being punished. I'd send a card, I'd send a gift, but that I couldn't hold a grandchild whose father had helped move my money and whose grandfather had forged my name. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She wrote back once, just, I understand. I love you. I'm here whenever. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if any of it's true. That's the partial part. I'm back at work. I moved to a smaller place, just me, no stairs, a garden in the back. Silas comes down most weekends. Corinne comes over every Tuesday for wine. Wendell sent one email after the divorce was final. It said, I did love you. I know that won't mean anything now, but I did. I didn't answer. Some messages don't need an answer. They just need to land where they land. Here's my question for you tonight. Have you ever found out that someone you trusted had been moving pieces around your life without asking? Small pieces, big pieces, any pieces? Did you ever get the whole story? Or did you have to learn to live with the version you could prove? If this story reached you, or if you know someone who's sitting in the middle of something like this right now, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The more of you who are here, the more stories we can tell. Thanks for listening tonight. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.